This is a 1985 Ferrari Quattrovalvole. This is one of probably a handful of these cars that were delivered new in Australia. There were very few. There were only 152 of these cars built and sold in right-hand drive alone. So this is a very rare example. And this one's currently for sale in Sydney, Australia. The Quattrovalvole was the second generation Ferrari Mondial. The first was the Mondial 8, and then this replaced it, the difference being of course the 4 valves per cylinder. And this increased power to around 240 horsepower or 179 kilowatts. Now by today's standards that may not seem like much, but this is a very lightweight car. This particular model is special because it was a new formula for Ferrari. It was still the mid-engine car, but it had 4 seats, so it made it a much more practical car and appealed to a broader audience. And that's what makes the car great today. If you want a classic Ferrari, but you want to take some people with you, you've got 4 seats in this car. It's a far better, more practical classic. This car was of course designed by one of the most famous design houses in the world, Pininfarina, and the bodywork was done by Carrozzeria Scaglieretti, another famous Italian design name. So this car is a very original example that's been obviously very well looked after, as you'd expect with most Ferraris of this era. The paint is in great condition. There are a few tiny little marks on bumpers and things, but nothing serious at all. All of the glass in the car is the original glass. You've got the Ferrari stickers, tyre pressure on the other side there, all original glass, no accident damage. Again, coming down the side of the car here, you've got your original glass with Ferrari stickers in place. Now this particular example does have aftermarket wheels put on it, but the original wheels, including the spare, come with the car. Now one thing to mention, the antenna here doesn't go fully down, there's a small kink in it, not a major issue. Down here you've got the Pininfarina badges, both sides of the car, and again, all of the original glass stickers are all in place. So inside the Ferrari, it's exactly what you'd expect for a 1980s Ferrari. You've got a gated manual transmission. You've got this amazing cream trim which contrasts really nicely with the bodywork. You've got tan carpet. It's all in original good condition. There's no major cracks in any of the seat trim. There's a small area out around the back, but the front seats are in great condition. The dashboard, everything's held up really, really well. It's actually quite amazing for the car's age. And for a 1980s sports car, there are a few luxury features. You've got air conditioning, you've got electric windows, all controlled here. The car's air conditioning works, but intermittently it does cut out. So that's one fault the sellers just noted. Now also of relevance, the speedometer has a fault and it's not recording speed, but the odometer is working. The current owner hasn't taken it out because they don't want to go and fiddle with the dash, because obviously that looks bad for the next person buying the car with genuine mileage. If you were to repair that issue, you'd want to get that recorded and properly done, probably by a Ferrari specialist. So in place of the speedometer not working, the current owner's actually got this GPS speedometer, which just sits here on the dash to keep you well within the limits. The rest of the dashboard, the whole layout is typically 80s. You've got these square designs, this amazingly beautiful but simple Ferrari steering wheel with the badge in the middle, plenty of space, a great driving position. You're low to the ground, but it feels comfortable, plenty of space with the seat right back. We'll show you what it's like sitting in the back in a second. It's not the most spacious area, but it still can seat 4 adults, or 2 adults and 2 kids comfortably, no doubt. So looking at the carpets in this car, this has been extremely well looked after. These carpets are all original. There's hardly any wear and tear. There's no sort of graze marks or anything. It's all been very well cared for, and it contrasts really nicely with the creme de cream trim. So getting into the back seat, there's not a lot of room, but you can manoeuvre your way through. And if you had a relatively short driver, you'd be okay. Your knees are up against the seat. There's not a lot of space, not a lot of headroom, but you can still take passengers. So coming inside the engine bay here, and as you'd expect for a Ferrari, there's a beautiful engine space here with the Quattrovalvole fuel intake manifold. Now, the owner notes that the cold start solenoid here is still connected. This is original on the car. It takes a little while for the engine, after it's been started, to come down in revs once it gets up to normal operating temperature, but once it's there it runs absolutely beautifully. And look, this car sounds amazing when it starts. The 4-valve, 3-litre V8 really is an amazing piece of engineering for this era in particular. So let's start her up and see what she sounds like. So coming into the front storage area here, you've got the original jack and tools, the original spare wheel, and what you notice is in a lot of these cars the struts break. These struts have been replaced on the front. So in the trunk here we've got all of the original Ferrari tools. Now when I say original Ferrari tools, this is the toolkit that came with the car, and on each of these spanners and each of these screwdrivers and tools is Ferrari that's been embossed or cast into it. So that's the original toolkit with the car, that's all here. There's also the original Ferrari light. It's in the side here, in the little side pocket. These cars came with a little service light. Lift up the carpet here behind the aerial. And there's a little electronic service light for when you get stuck on the side of the road at night, you can work on the Ferrari. Now there's not a lot of room back here, of course. You could put a couple of small bags or something, or a picnic camper in here. There's not a lot of room, but you've got some space as well in the front, and of course you've got a rear seat in the car as well where you can put things. So practically speaking, this Ferrari is a fairly useful and practical classic. So this car, one of the most special things about it is its service history and the records it has. It's an Australian delivered example, and it even has the Mondial Quattrovalvole, the Australian version of the owner's manual. Looking here at some of the documentation, you can see it going back, service records, all the way to when it was sold in 1985 in Fortitude Valley up in Queensland, brand new. We have all of these service books, the 1985 book, we've got the Alpine System book. Also, it's got its original service book case, which to be honest is probably the most worn thing in the whole car, but it's still holding up pretty well, and you could protect that nicely. It's a really quite a classy way to keep your service records. And of course it's got a bunch of service history and records, invoices for services, work done, dating all the way back to 1985 up until recently. We're going to take some more photos of these records just to show you what we've got here and some of the work that's been done to the car. I mean, some of these invoices are showing, $6,000 services and things over the years, and this just goes way back. This is really special to have this collection of documents and record history for such a rare Australian delivered car. If you're looking for an Italian sports car that's Australian delivered from the 80s, this one's definitely worth checking out. Speak with the seller Bob and come and have a look at the car, located Sydney, New South Wales. Thanks for watching.